Peter Costas. I'm a member of Lila. I'm portraying a Spanish colonial soldier from 1898 Cuba, Spanish-American War. And this is our display of equipment.
Joe Van Shake, also a member of Lila, and representing the 71st New York Reserves Guards Division that went to use the Spanish-American War. And this is also part of our equipment that we would use.
Tell me a little history.
So, knowing what the Spanish-American War happened somewhere between the more modern wars and the Civil War. So there was a mixture of equipment that didn't really work, that we were proving that could work, that may work, or just trying to modernize our army. At the beginning of the war, the units were issued wool pants to fight in the jungles of Cuba. That didn't work out too well.
Well, the Spanish Army wore, it's called a rayadillo, lightweight cotton uniform. Straw hat, for the sun protection, and it's cooler than the wool felt hat that the American soldiers wore.
The Americans quickly pivoted using utility uniforms, pants that weren't supposed to be for combat but were supposed to be for doing work around their camps, and stripping their jackets and just wearing their regular shirts, and using also their utility hats that had better sunshade and were lighter. This also leads into the fact that the equipment and the rifles used, it was the same idea. They walked into the war starting with a Springfield trapdoor rifle, which was basically just a Civil War era musket converted into a trapdoor that fires a 45. It'd be loaded, fired, and then round would be ejected. The individual soldier would carry the rounds on their belt and load one by one. These were black powder, so every time you would fire, you get that nice big white smoke showing you exactly what your positions are, especially when you had more than one person firing in an area. They were up against the Spanish.
The Spanish were equipped with, the U.S., while they outgunned them numerically, were undergunned. The Spanish were using German-made Mauser rifles, which were loaded from a 5-round stripper clip. You put it here, push the rounds down, close the bolt, and now you had 5 shots really quickly. I would pull one of these clips out of the leather cartridge pouch. I had 5 rounds readily available again. I was able to reload much faster. The guns were more accurate and at higher velocity. The bullets had such a velocity that the American soldiers nicknamed the bullets going by their heads Spanish Hornets. The U.S. cavalry and the regular infantry, not the guard units, did have a full-size rifle called a Krag-Jørgensen, and the cavalry units and Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders carried what they called the Krag-Jørgensen carbine, which was a 5-shot bolt-action rifle, but which loaded this little gate here. You would have to take the cartridges, drop them in individually, 5 of them, close it, and then you would have a 5-shot rifle and you could fire as fast as the Spanish. But when the reloading part took time because the cartridges for this particular rifle were also worn in a type of cartridge belt like this. So you had to take the rounds out individually. So that took more time. And the Spanish soldiers would be shooting at the Americans. So that makes them nervous. And the Spanish also had several German Maxim machine guns. The only machine guns the Americans had were 2 that the Rough Riders had gotten from Tiffany and Company in New York City, because the owner of Tiffany, his son was a Rough Rider who was killed in action on I believe, Kettle Hill. His Mr. Tiffany purchased the machine guns and ammunition and donated them to the Rough Riders. The American Army had Gatling guns, some of them, and had artillery, but the Spanish, one of their problems was the 5,000-mile supply line to Cuba and the 15,000-mile supply line to the Philippines. So in the end, they just logistically couldn't hold out.
So it was basically the beginning of the U.S. being more of an industrial powerhouse. They took the equipment that they realized wasn't working for them and tried to make it better. This would be the last time the U.S. would be wearing blues. They would quickly pivot to wearing either a khaki or a green, which you would later see in the World War I era. Most of the stuff you see was mass-produced and produced quickly, and it just showed that the U.S. was trying to get more into their equipment game, even to the point of realizing the Mauser outclassed them, taking that design, bringing it home, and telling a company like Springfield, hey, can you do this for us? Springfield would later make the 1903 rifle off of the Mauser designs that they brought home, slightly improving upon it, getting sued in the process for breaking patent infringement and losing that.
They were paying, Springfield was paying patent infringement fines to Mauser up till World War I, till the U.S. entry, or I'm not sure if it was the U.S. entry or the actual beginning of World War I in 1914. That I'm not sure.
But it would just show that this was sort of the interim of the U.S. being an early Civil War era army to being the more industrialized army that you see in World War I and World War II.
And this was the first international fight that the U.S. was basically in, other than some naval engagements. You know, the U.S. had always fought on the continental U.S., the Civil War, all the wars, the Civil War, and then the Plains War, the Indian Wars.
That's about all I got on it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.